Hello, this is Ron Michaels, the K-12 Science Consultant for the Connecticut State Department of Education here in Hartford, Connecticut. I'm joined by Rachael Manzer, the STEM coach for the Winchester Public Schools and a part of Achieve's peer review panel. Today, Rachael and I will discuss the resources that classroom teachers and science staff might use to evaluate NGSS instructional and assessment materials.
Let's begin by looking at our agenda to give you an understanding of what this presentation will cover. As a result of this webinar, you will better understand the resources available to evaluate instructional and assessment materials, be able to utilize the myriad of tools developed by Achieve and others that may be useful to school districts and science personnel throughout the state in the quest to implement effective and appropriate NGSS lessons and units.
This website, where we are directing the viewer, has been developed by Achieve. These are the folks that were instrumental in the writing of the next generation science standards that over 20 states have adopted as their own state science standards. The professional learning activities that are involved with using these Achieve tools will help people understand the nature of three-dimensional instruction, but their real power comes from the productive and thoughtful facilitated conversations educators have while evaluating science materials. Even with high-quality materials and tools, teachers must use their professional judgment in selecting and shaping lessons in their classrooms. Learning how to use the various tools in a collaborative way can help bring out to what extent a group of reviewers has regarding a common understanding of the NGSS or designing lessons for the NGSS. Like clicking the link embedded within each slide, you will be directed via hyperlink to the corresponding website. This first website is titled Science Within the Achieve Domain.
This slide lists all the Achieve tools that may help you in your science instructional and evaluation tasks. Again, this page can be accessed by clicking the hyperlinked URL listed on the slide. Will your district be selecting materials to teach science? The Nextgen Time will be a helpful resource for you. Nextgen Time is a collaboration from Achieve, WestEd, BSCS, Achieve, Carnegie Corporation. It is a suite of tools and processes for curriculum-based professional learning that supports educators to evaluate, select, and implement instructional materials designed for the next generation science. There are 5 phases in this process. Number 1, prepare. Districts get together a team and determine if any professional learning is needed. Number 2, Prescreen. It is a quick tool. This step helps you to narrow down your choices. Number 3, paper screen. The reviewing team really digs into each material looking for evidence of strengths and weaknesses. Number 4, pilot. Teachers from the team try out units from the remaining 1 or 2 programs in the classrooms by teaching a unit of instruction and gathering evidence from student work and supports for teacher implementation. And number 5, plan for implementation. Nextgen Time provides a structure that helps to empower educators to aim higher and accomplish more during the instructional materials selection process. It's not just about choosing better materials, but about proving next generation science instruction for all students.
While Nextgen Time evaluates year-long science programs, this next tool is designed to measure smaller units of lessons. Maybe your district needs to evaluate a purchased unit or to evaluate a unit or lesson that the district wrote in-house. Then the Equip tool for science will be a useful tool for you.
As part of Achieve's peer review panel, I received continuous in-depth training on the Equip rubric. The Equip rubric is a tool used to evaluate the quality and alignment of curriculum and lessons with the next generation science standards. This slide will get you to the launching point where you can find more information about Equip. There are three main categories on the EQUIP rubric that are used to evaluate units or lessons that go over several class periods or days. They are Section 1, NGSS 3D Design, Section 2, NGSS Instructional Support, and Section 3, Monitoring NGSS Student Progress. Each of these categories can be broken down into smaller sections. For example, in Section 1, NGSS 3D Design, it evaluates phenomena, cross-cutting concepts, disciplinary core ideas, and science and engineering practices. Additionally, it can evaluate the integration of the three dimensions, coherence, and the connections to math and ELA.
There are resources to help you with the implementation of the EQUIP tool for science rubric. The Chief has published a facilitator's guide for professional learning and several videos related to the EQUIP rubric. Resources are broken down into easy-to-use modules that include a variety of handouts. It is also available in several formats, like Word and PDFs, and finally in a PowerPoint presentation format that would be an excellent staff development tool for a PLC. The website listed on this slide will take you there via hyperlink. Remember, the EQUIP Science rubric is not designed to evaluate a single task or activity. However, this next tool is designed to do just that. Maybe your district needs to evaluate a single lesson in respect to NGSS. The NGSS Lesson Screener will help you. As you are looking at the NGSS Lesson Screener on this slide, notice it has similar criteria, but it is a scaled-down version of the EQUIP rubric for science. The purpose of this tool is to quickly review a learning sequence to see if it is on the right track. The lesson screener should be used as an informal review. It is not designed for thorough vetting of lessons or for evaluating larger units or longer sequences of instruction. It is a quick, helpful tool to see if you are on the right track.
We have gone over tools that can help you evaluate existing whole science programs, units, and lessons. But what if you need programs, units, or lessons? Here is a symbol that you should be aware of, the Achieve Design Badge. The NGSS Design Badge is awarded to top-rated science units designed for the next generation science standards. So why as a district do you need to be aware of this badge? Because there are a lot of science instructional materials that claim to be aligned to NGSS with little to no evidence. You know, if you see this badge, then the materials are high quality and designed for NGSS. The emphasis is on the word designed for an NGSS, not just aligned to NGSS. The design badge is a good place to start. When you see a digital design badge, you will be able to click on it to verify its authenticity. The badge is embedded with a full EQUIP rubric report for that material for you to look at.
Hey, Rachel, what's big right now in the science education community in the state of Connecticut?
Assessment.
That's right. This next few slides will show you some tools that are available for you from Achieve involving assessment. Some of the biggest questions we hear are, what does student progress look like with three-dimensional standards? And what are the important features of a high-quality assessment task? The Task Annotation Project in Science, known as TAPS, begins to answer those questions for you.
Long gone are the days of traditional multiple-choice questions that have students memorizing scientific facts, along with those types of tests where you have to match the vocabulary word to the definition. Assessments today are three-dimensional and are centered around figuring out a phenomena. Science assessment tasks designed for the next generation science standards come in many different forms. With so many different types of assessments, it's not tricky to identify what really sets a three-dimensional assessment apart from a traditional assessment. The Task Annotation Project in Science, TAPS, has defined features that routinely distinguish NGSS tasks from science tasks that are not designed for NGSS. Think of included as a must-have list for NGSS assessments. These include equity. Assessments should be equitable. We need to support a wide range of diverse students. With science assessments, all students are supported in meeting their science learning goals. Phenomena. Phenomena is another must-have feature of three-dimensional science assessment. Essentially, it's what the students are trying to figure out. Sense-making. Sense-making is a third must-have. Three-dimensional tasks require students to make sense of phenomena and problems using the NGSS 3 dimensions, which are science and engineering practices, disciplinary core ideas, and cross-cutting concepts. Science and engineering practice, they answer the question, how are students going to use the science and engineering practices to make sense of the phenomena? Cross-cutting concepts. These assessment tasks should include cross-cutting concepts. Cross-cutting concepts provide a structure to examine a phenomena. Disciplinary core ideas. Good NGSS assessments still measure whether students can demonstrate an understanding of the science content. And finally, assessment purpose. Why are you doing the assessment? How does it fit into your assessment system?
Achieve has provided examples of assessment tasks by grade band, 3 to 5, 6 to 9, and 10 to 12. Grades 3 to 5 have 3 examples. Grades 6 to 9 have 5. And grades 9 to 12 has 12 assessment tasks. Each task includes an annotated version of the assessment task as well as a review of what are the strengths and weaknesses of the assessment. This is a good resource to begin looking at the components of high-quality assessments.
As a district, science coordinator, department head, or teacher, you found an assessment task, but how do you know it's any good? Achieve has resources to help you. The Science Task Prescreen. The purpose of the Science Task Prescreen is to conduct a quick review of the assessment task to determine if it's aligned with the framework for the K-12 science education upon which the NGSS was written. The pre-screen is a quick screening tool as opposed to a more comprehensive tool. The pre-screen focuses on features that are non-negotiable, easily identified, and reflect the most serious fatal flaws. For example, is there a phenomena or problem driving the task? Having used the task pre-screen before, I found the best use of this pre-screener is when you are having a discussion with a colleague while reviewing the task.
What if your district found an assessment that did well in the pre-screen? Now your district wants to determine if the assessment is high quality. Achieve has a second tool just for this purpose. The Science Task Screener is used to take that deeper dive into evaluating science assessment tasks. The Science Task Screener will help to determine whether classroom assessment tasks are high quality, designed to elicit evidence of three-dimensional performances, and designed to support the purpose for which they will be used.
Having used the Science Task Screener, it is a great tool to use together with a colleague for professional learning because as a group, you can come up with a common set of features about what three-dimensional assessment should look like.
In assessment, districts have a tool they can use to pre-screen an assessment task of whether it's worth doing. They also have a tool called the Science Task Screener that takes a deeper dive into the assessments to find out what are its strengths and weaknesses. But how do you know if the task is rigorous? Achieve has developed 3 brand new frameworks, one each for mathematics, reading, and science, that can be used to evaluate the cognitive complexity of an assessment task.
The cognitive complexity framework are intended to help those who design, develop, and evaluate assessments to ensure that the full depth and breadth of the state's academic standards are being measured. On the website, there is an introductory video about the cognitive complexity tool and how to use it.
The Local Assessment Resources in Science, or LARS, project is a state of Connecticut effort to share NGSS assessment resources that have been developed by teachers and administrators in Connecticut schools and districts. The resources include student assessment tasks and professional learning materials intended for teachers of science throughout the state. The goal is to eventually share these resources, gather feedback from fellow science educators, and eventually post approved resources to a public website.
One of the first resources that has been developed by LARS project is a list of NGSS assessments from various projects around the country. This Excel spreadsheet includes a brief description of each assessment, where it can be accessed, and the various key elements such as targeted grade levels and performance expectations, format of the assessment, and whether it is free to educators.
This slide shows an overview of the process to review NGSS assessment tasks that have been locally developed and submitted to the LARS project. The first step is to submit the resource using the LARS submission form that asks for background information on the task. Submitted tasks are reviewed using the Achieve Science Task Prescreen tool we discussed in an earlier slide. If the task meets minimum requirements, it will go for a more in-depth review, and detailed feedback will be provided to the task developer. Revised tasks will be pilot tested and scored student work collected. Vetted tasks will be shared publicly through a public website.
Thank you for watching this webinar on Next Generation Science Standards Evaluating Instructional Materials. For information about the NGSS standards implementation, instruction, and curriculum resources in Connecticut, contact Ron Michael. For information about using any of the Achieve NGSS tools in Connecticut, contact myself, Rachael Manzer. And finally, for information about LARS and NGSS assessments in Connecticut, contact Jeff Gregg.